Hello, welcome to my project, which I will discuss the history of procurement and strategic sourcing. This is a project for Logistics 240 from Forsyth Tech Community College, fall semester 2019. So first I want to talk about strategic sourcing, which deals with 5 key elements, one of which is quality. This relates to the functionality or how well a product will work and its specification or how well the product meets requirements as what is considered to be acceptable. Next is also quantity, so the amount that's supplied should meet that is demanded. Next is delivery. The product should arrive when needed. Price needs to be competitive with other sellers. Service. Customer service is important for any type of business relationship. So this leads into strategic sourcing, which is the focus of this presentation. And in supply management, it has been concerned with a value proposition and meeting strategic plans of an organization. So such strategic plans will include such things as risk reduction, access to new technology, access to new markets, supply assurance, reputation, and corporate image improvement. So all of these things are important with strategic sourcing that goes above and beyond that of the traditional sourcing. So the evolution of procurement has been one shifting more towards strategic sourcing. And this is because it is considered to be a means to enhance efficiency, drive cost savings, and bring value. The concept of strategic sourcing originated in the 1980s and 1990s as a means to critically analyze how an organization spends money. Strategic sourcing will allow businesses to make decisions about obtaining services, commodities, in an efficient and effective manner. So, some interesting definitions that have been given for what is strategic sourcing. It can be thought of as a type of procurement process of an institution, which you can have continually improvement and reevaluation of activities related to the purchasing function. Also, it's a ways that you can achieve business goals in a long-term manner, and also involves collecting an analysis of spending of a company, looking specifically at services and commodities. Strategic is often can be equated or equivalent to mission critical. So if anything is considered strategic, it is also considered critical to a company's mission. So basically with strategic sourcing, we're going to look at basically classifying purchases into 2 main categories. They're going to be either strategic or non-strategic. And a strategic purchase is one that is critical to the mission of a business. It is a good or service that will directly impact whether a company mission is achieved. And so once we allocate, once we really define a purchase as strategic or non-strategic, then the appropriate allocation can be made in terms of time, effort, and money. And so also strategic purchasing will involve identification of potential vendors as sources, and then for certain purchases that are considered high risk, high value, really thoroughly investigating and researching an analysis of these suppliers is going to be very critical. So here I have one stumbling block with implementing strategic sourcing is some of the misconceptions that a lot of companies have related to strategic sourcing. And once these misconceptions can be addressed and really looking what the reality really is, then that would help promote the adoption of strategic sourcing. So one misconception is that you would only have a sole source for one company. So this could be limiting, especially if you want to look at different suppliers and different alternate paths and different alternate options. So it can involve multiple awards to different companies. It doesn't always have to be one company. Another misconception is that buying cheap is what it's all about, without regard to quality. But quality is key for achieving strategic sourcing. Also, strategic sourcing may also be thought of as needing to change suppliers, which may not be very advantageous, especially if you have one supplier that is well known and well trusted, one that you rely on. So it sometimes will involve changing suppliers, but not always. And also, um, a misconception is that there would be loss of small, local, and diverse businesses that would be utilized. But that is not the case. It does ensure that fair economic practices and policies are used with strategic sourcing. Also, one misconception is that one size fits all, but it is actually unique to each company and circumstance. Um, so basically, another misconception is that suppliers are strong armed into doing things that they don't need to do or want to do. However, that's not really the case, and there's more flexibility involved. It's also thought of as being a one misconception of being as one-time project, but it's really a life cycle approach to continuous improvement, and it's actually done through an iterative process. So here I have actually this flow process that's involved with strategic sourcing. And you can see how you go from step 1, 2, 3, and 4 as you go counterclockwise through this little chart here. So basically the first step in the process is research and analysis. So this would involve market research, such as initial benchmarking, getting the initial procurement strategy, and development. Then once that's in place, then there are going to be stakeholder discussions, such that you identify any type of roadblocks and concerns and needs that the stakeholders will have. And then during this stage, the strategy is going to be finalized. Next is the actual procurement event, where contracts are awarded, vendor negotiations are established, and basically your strategy is going to be implemented. So you will have actually a request for a proposal will be obtained during this step. And last is performance management, which involves tracking a procurement. Um, so basically looking at cost savings, looking at customer satisfaction, looking at price audits, and looking at lessons learned, which will be involved in further refining of that process. So there are some limitations to strategic sourcing. So you may not always say, well, this is the way to go versus the traditional sourcing. Some challenges that may affect really adopting strategic sourcing include the cost and time constraints, especially in obtaining analytical data for cost and benchmarking. Also, if special software is needed to track data. Training of staff, looking at regulations and laws, and then collecting data through analysis such as P cards, vendor sales data, and accounts payable has a limitation of being very time consuming. And also data analysis of all this information can involve very sophisticated techniques such as data cleansing, so that you have to make sure that there are either no duplicate values as well as there are no missing values in order to form that initial preliminary benchmarking. So that's going to be really data heavy and very time consuming, and that is a limitation. Also, looking at statutes involving laws and policies, ensuring that the proper procedures are followed, is a very laborious process. So, in summary, strategic sourcing focuses on building long term customer relationships, basically looking at sourcing of commodities, cost reduction strategies, identification of technology advancements, and analysis of supply market trends with the subsequent implementation of procurement plans that capitalize these market trends. Strategic sourcing is an iterative process of research and analysis, stakeholder discussions, the procurement event, and performance management. Through this process, long-term gains in efficiency and customer satisfaction may be achieved. So in conclusion, despite all the challenges involved in strategic sourcing, this presents with uh, uh, cost and time obtaining analytical data, also with benchmarking, expense of software, etc., training of staff, and looking at regulations and laws. It actually has more benefits than liabilities, and is going to be the trend of the future. Already in the past decade, strategic sourcing has gained impetus, with 25 states total in 2019 formally implementing strategic sourcing, with the anticipation that these programs will continue to grow and improve. And I think there are actually about 13 states that are pending adaptation of formal strategic sourcing plans. So basically, it involves a continuous improvement process, and it's going to yield efficiency, quality, and improved stakeholder satisfaction compared to traditional procurement. So here I have my references that I used for this talk, and I hope that you learned a lot. I certainly did, and did learn a lot that will benefit me as I continue to learn more about supply chain and logistics. Thank you very much.